Hello, welcome back. Well, the West African nation of Liberia is well on its way to declaring itself a Christian nation. Should we celebrate this, James Standish?
Well, it's great to be back, Kent. First of all, spiffy hairdo, I got to say.
Wow.
Very spiffy. And I think, you know, you're setting a standard here.
Possibly modelled off yours.
Well, I don't know. Mine's cut very short right at the back. But look, Liberia is an interesting country. It's a country that's gone through tremendous hardship. I actually handled a couple asylum cases from Liberians when I worked as a lawyer in the U.S. And they're obviously in the rebuilding phase. They've come up with this idea as part of the rebuilding or saying who they are as a nation. They want to call themselves a Christian nation. I'm not very fond of these ideas of naming nations after religions. We're an Islamic state or we're a Christian state.
A secular state, even some nations have done that.
I'm not really that keen even on calling yourself a secular state. And I'll tell you why, Ken. Every country on earth, virtually, you might be able to, maybe the Vatican's the exception, but nearly everyone has a diverse population.
Yep.
And so when you say we are a Christian state, and there are people who are Muslim or animist or atheists, well, how does that make you feel? It makes you feel like you're a second-class citizen in your own
in
country.
Liberia, the Muslim population there is certainly saying we're feeling marginalised by this.
Which I think is a natural thing. Now, of course, what the Christians would say back, or some Christians might say, well, you guys are very opposed to having a Christian nation, but look how many states, like, for example, Iran, the Islamic Republic, or Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, all these countries that have done it. But the point is this, nearly every country that's gone down that route, who wants to live there? I mean, there's a reason why people are getting on boats and risking their lives to get away from many of these so-called Islamic, states.
Okay, well, let's take your data about this a little further, James. In a country like Australia, we have prayers in Parliament.
Sure.
In
the US too.
Yeah, there's a Christian infrastructure sort of built into some of our forms of government and things like that. Is that something we should perhaps look at, maybe reducing the amount of religion there and being a little more neutral?
It's a good question. I think that when you end up in a situation where particular religions are marginalized from the public square, I think you do have a problem. And I think one of the things that the U.S. has done a very good job of is to say, yeah, we have a prayer. Most of the time it's Christian. Most of us are Christians. But we also have imams come in. We also have rabbis come in and so forth. So you get that diversity. I don't think that you should scrub the public square of religion. We are religious people. We have a religious background. It does infuse our culture. There's no reason why we can't reflect that. But what we shouldn't do, we should reflect the diversity of our religious views, not no triumphalism. You know, my dad used to say this. He had a comment. If you have to put a descriptor in front of your country, it's probably because you're not what you say you are. For example, think of all the countries that call themselves democratic or People's Republic of. Well, they're the least democratic. And yet the democracies, you don't say the democracy of Australia, it just is. And I think the same thing with countries. If you are a predominantly Christian country, people will see that and they'll know it. If you're not saying it, it's not going to make it so.
Boy, and so I guess the challenge then is for us, you know, living in a Christian majority country as Australia is, you know, barely, I guess, you know, what can we do to infuse a Christian ethic in our nation? Not in a dominating, you know, taking over everyone else's way, but in, I guess, you know, Jesus' way, sort of from the underneath. Some interesting insights there. Thanks so much for your time this week, James.
Well, thanks so much, Kent. And if I can get the name of your barber, you know, get along there.
Thanks. All right, we'll be back straight after the break.